This is a digital camera, and this is a film camera. Generally speaking, whichever one makes you feel the most comfortable to use should be the right one to use. But there's still lots of debates on which one to be the better one. And the topic of the debates is usually connected to 5 categories: price, speed, functionality, quality, and process. Let's try to take a look at them one by one. First off, price. Now, the price is the biggest reason why digital camera outsell film camera in the consumer market. If we look purely at the storage capacity, a roll of 35mm film can usually get around 36 exposures and can cost from $3 to $20 per roll. Whereas for SD cards, most of them can easily store up to thousands of pictures. And the best part is, it's reusable. And also for film, besides spending money on every roll you use, you're gonna have to pay to develop and scan your films. So it's definitely not a very cheap option for a lot of people. Next up, speed. Well, I don't think there's much to explain when it comes to speed, because if you just compare switching SD card versus switching films, the autofocus, and compared to film, with digital you get an instant output of what you just took, so there's definitely no reason not to choose digital if speed is all you want. Now let's get to quality. If it was a few years ago, quality would be the reason why film still exists. But in 2020, that's not really the case anymore. The quality of digital image has become so good nowadays that the need of a high resolution is not really important anymore. And when people cannot really tell the difference between film and digital, their focus starts to shift into somewhere else, which is functionality. When it comes to functionality, there's just too much stuff going on with the digital camera that film cameras don't have. It's actually a really good thing to have so much function, because then you don't really need to think about all the limitation you have and just focus on creating. And you might think, if having all these functions is such a good thing, why people are still choosing film over digital? That's why we have our last category, which is called the process. For film, you kind of need a sort of a discipline when shooting, because not only you have limited films, but also you don't get the instant result of it, so you don't even know if it's good or bad. And that makes you kind of think a lot before even taking a shot. And that's the difference between, at least for me, that's the difference between film and digital, is that you think before you shoot, but for digital, you kind of just put the thing in front of your face and you just click it. You can't think later in the editing, the post-production, you don't really need to be that much careful. Of course you would think with digital as well, but I would say it's not as much as film, because it costs money for every click, but for digital it's almost free. So I really like this process that you have when shooting films. Like, you put the camera in front of your face, you look through the viewfinder, and after a few seconds you're like, nah, it's not worth the shot. not worth my money. So it's like, if you think of that way, it's like, for every shot you take with film, you're kind of like buying that shot, because every shot is money. So I don't really think like that, but that might be going on at the back of our head when we're shooting. That's why we're so careful with it. When I first started shooting film, I kind of feel very restricted by this whole, carefulness, and then you don't see the instant result of it, so you kind of feel like there's a lot of risk to it. At the same time, it kind of feels liberating, because once you made the decision, it's done. You don't get to go back to it. When you decided to take the shot, after it's taken, you don't, kind of like there's no regret, and you just move on to the next place, because you cannot see it anyways. Whereas for digital, sometimes for this one thing, I will take like 100 shots and I'm still not sure if it's the good shot or if it's the shots that I took are okay, so I would take a lot of them. And also for film, there's a lot of surprise element to it, because after you take your roll, you don't know what's inside in a way. It's like you know what you shot, but you don't know how it's gonna look like. So after a few days, after it's scanned and developed, when you see the result of it, sometimes there's a lot of surprise inside. Like you see things that you didn't expect to see. Like there's a shot that I got I really don't even remember how I got that shot, but I was taking a picture of a street and there's an old man. He just passed by my camera and he looked at the camera. And it's just such a weird composition that it turned out to be so funny, and I really liked the picture. After you send the films to scan and develop, it really it made me feel very excited, and I really like that feeling. Some of you might think that this experience and this process is not really that important, but a lot of companies that are really aware of it, such as Fujifilm and Leica. As far as I know, they came out with cameras that don't have screens. You can only check it after you put the SD card in your computer and see the result of it. So it's kind of like the same thing. And they also try to replicate the color and the quality of the film on a digital sensor. I don't know, I've never tried it, but I mean, at least they're trying, so it's kind of interesting to me that this thing is that important that a camera company would try to imitate this experience on a digital camera. After going through all of these points, you might understand why, from a commercial standpoint, digital camera is a more efficient option for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, photography is still a form of art, and with art, you just do with whatever medium makes you feel the most comfortable to use, and that's will be the right one to use. So I don't think there's need to be fights about which one would be the better one. I'm sure both have their own advantage. For me, when I'm shooting on film, my perspective even changed. Like when I was trying to compare my picture, my digital photo and my film photo, I feel like it's taken by a different person in a way, because my perspective kind of changed. It's kind of like when you're speaking different language, your personality kind of change as well. That's how I felt like when I'm speaking English or when I'm speaking Chinese, I kind of shift to another personality. And for me, that's the case with photography when I'm shooting film. Maybe because I become more careful, my pictures become more, it just turned out different from what I usually would shoot on digital. So I think it's a really interesting thing, and I hope you guys at least try out once on film. And that's the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.